This is going to be a VOD review for Silver Luna PacketThief here, and the things we're going to focus on in this VOD review are going to be their snowball usage, their positioning, and how to identify your job, or at least some of the ideas on identifying your job when you're running triple support. So we're going to notice there's a few issues with how we're using snowball, and we're just going to jump right to about the 11:30 minute mark here, because it looks like we're using our snowball off cooldown. Luna's snowball not only triggers her passive to give herself regen, but it also gives her a shield if you hit it, and it's going to be your primary self-defense tool. We seem to be throwing it on cooldown without much consideration for what we're throwing it at or why. In this game, you're not really punished for it, but once you start getting into different types of games, or where there's going to be dive heroes or wolverines or blades that need to be either gotten off you or your tanks, you're going to want to make sure that you have that available. So when you use it, you can use it to just try to stun a tank in the front line so that they can take a bunch of spike damage, right? That's perfectly fine. But when we use it, we need to use it with some forethought. You can interrupt Doctor Strange ult with it. You can interrupt Spider-Man ult with it. If you're super quick and the Storm is out of position, you can interrupt Storm's wind up on her ult. You can interrupt Scarlet Witch's ult. Snowball is a very powerful ability, and we need to make sure that that's like in our mind as we improve and as we rank up, because it'll become more and more important. Especially with the new hero coming out, Angela, who is going to likely, at this point, as of this recording, be another dive tank. So then we're going to have Venom Captain, Angela, and even though they're getting nerfs, Psylocke is still popular, Magic is still popular, Black Panther is still popular. So you're going to have to be able to deal with dive tanks and be a little more self-sufficient and or be supportive of your support, because you can't always guarantee that your team is going to peel for you. Now, what do you do about this? This is done by positioning and by cooldown usage, and they're both related because your positioning is going to dictate how many cooldowns or resources you need to use. Aggressive positioning might use more of your resources. Defensive positioning may let you save resources. Your resources are going to be your cooldown, your health, any mobility tools that you might have. So we need to be really careful, especially moving forward, of what we're going to be doing with our cooldowns. So we're going to jump in right now, and I have a note. Also, as a note, you don't want to be AFK off the rip. Sometimes you can take a chunk of damage. And there's a good example right there. So we don't know if there's a Black Panther yet. We don't know if there is a Magic lurking around here. I know that in Silver, sometimes you're going to get that. You're going to get somebody that's going to try to drop down on you. And you need to be able to respond to that, which may end up saving not just yourself, but it will also save possibly your tank or another support or a DPS that went out early. So we need to be considerate, and that's the first example that we're going to use. So then we're going to fast forward here. This gets into another point that I was making. I know that you, in general, keep your snowflake on Spider-Man. However, if we look at Emma here, we can see that Emma takes a boatload of damage, and your snowball will actually increase the amount of healing you do to the target that it's on if you're healing that target as well. In this case, with the solo tank, Spider-Man is more than mobile enough. You shouldn't hesitate to put it on your tank if you think they're going to be taking a boatload of damage. This is okay, and then it's not. So this was average positioning. I personally would have continued to play back here because you have more cover from this. This doesn't break. You were not great here, but at least he kind of had the cart. But in general, if you see Moon Knight shooting down here, this is going to be a much better position for you if you're going to play this aggressively because you're worried about your team walking around the corner, or even this thing in the middle here doesn't break as well. But when you're this close to the enemy team and the tanks with nowhere to go, you're kind of a sitting duck, and something's going to hit you. These people aren't going to be guaranteed to hit you, but the higher rank you get, or maybe you just get a DPS player on their team that has a good aim, or Penny Parker nets you and now you're standing still, or Namor here just logs you with one of his spears. This is going to be more and more likely to happen as you gain. So it's really important that we always have some piece of cover to dip behind if we don't like the situation, and that we're not too close to the dangerous things. Each character has something that we call effective range, and this is very related to positioning. Effective range is, an extreme example here is Emma. Emma, her effective range is either the length of her laser, which is, as we can see here, which is either minimal damage or significant, depending on how charged up she is. But the dangerous part of Emma is about this range right here, because she can shift, grab, and kick you into wall and basically kill you in less than 3 seconds if you're not a tank. Or, as a tank, make your life miserable. So this is Emma's most effective range, is around here, where she can literally just push W and E and slam you into a wall and eliminate you. Now, conversely, we're looking at Luna. Your effective range is, for supporting, is as long as you have line of sight on your team, right? That's completely effective. You can be doing the exact same thing you're doing from here, instead of being this close to the entire enemy team grouped up, with the Moon Knight having the time of his life, getting all the endorphins he can get off of the tickies from bouncing his chakrams. So this goes into one of the core principles of how you're using cover or how you're not. And this is something everyone needs to be doing. Even the Punisher should be wary of his sightlines. He's a huge hitbox. This is a little better. Not everybody can see him, but you're all grouped up. They have a Moon Knight. We've known that since the beginning. Moon Knight loves anything grouped up, and it's going to let him turbocharge his ultimate. We can already see that he has 80%, and that's basically because you guys are just free feeding him. It's also increasing the amount of healing you need to do on the stress that you're under. Okay, so we have to ask, why did we throw that snowball? What were we throwing it at? Right? And I understand that there can be, various things that are going to trip us into doing it. We're going to try to get us... But also, again, here, what are we throwing this snowball at? Are we throwing it at the Ahnks? Well, it only does like 5 damage, I think. At the most. Like I said, this is an important self-defense or CC cooldown, and we have to respect it and treat it as such. Now, this is over, right? The tanks are dead or respawning, or I don't know where your Emma went. Oh, she's probably respawning on the beacon. But you are now in the danger zone, and you just need to run away. Just full on get back, which you do. That's great. Okay, we're going to zoom in again here. All right, your snowflake should be on her. You're making your life much more difficult by not having it on her. She's a solo tank into a 1-3-2 combination, which is just a monstrous amount of damage that your tank is going to be taking. Basically, in this situation, even though you're triple support, you're going to have to keep your snowflake on her if the other supports are having trouble keeping it up, or if your tank also has a poor use of cover, or if there's just so much damage coming in, right? Again, we're not in cover, but you can just walk around that hook randomly and kick you. We're also still grouped up against the Moon Knight. That's great healing on her to keep her up. Yet again, though, you're getting really close. Now, I get maybe you were expecting her to walk around the corner, which is perfectly fine. But if he's armed and dangerous and he somehow gets her or someone else, the only chance you have is to be spread out so that he can't just absolutely slam every single person on your team. And that comes from the good positioning, right? Making it more difficult for him to do his job, which is going to make it more difficult for him to get his resets and more likely to take damage and be eliminated. So we see several times that we have bad snowballs. Let's look at one that's a good snowball attempt. We have 15. Alright, so we've used our alt here. We're not going to talk about alt usage right here, but this is amazing. I think you either saw Bucky or the Moon Knight, and you went to do a flick shot. That's great. Now, this is when you use snowball, right? Either of these two targets right in your face, especially this one, is premium snowball material because they're both kill threats. And they're both high-value targets that if you CC, maybe your team can try to spike down. Maybe Spider-Man comes in. Maybe your Moon Knight, gets a good chunky headshot on the guy, right? But then you don't get hooked and cooked here. If that had hit, he'd be frozen right as you hit him if he did get it off, and then you'd be able to get away because Moon Knight's looking at his Ahnk instead of you, who he should be focusing. Okay. Luckily, we almost got away, but it was probably time to reset anyways because of our tank. So yet again, you wouldn't have had to do this, and we're going back to positioning. This is your play. Your play is here, and now it's out. The point isn't your job. Really, truthfully, you should have been gone a while ago. The point is not your responsibility as the support. It's going to be for the tank. You can push the point, but you don't want to contest the point unless you absolutely have to. Let anybody else do it, because you can generate infinite number of hit points on somebody, but they cannot do the same for you, so you will just get chipped down. The cart provides a very minor amount of healing, but it's not going to save you from getting two-tapped by Bucky, whereas you can sustain a tank or anything from an angle even here, right? We're not worried about it going around the corner here. It's somebody would have to cross behind to go up to the high ground here to threaten you, and if they do, you still have right now this that you can still do your job from. You can not only heal Moon Knight from here, right? But you can also, Moon Knight from here, but you can also shoot enemy targets, which we're going to get to in a second. Let me check my notes again. We're going to go to another example of a bad snowball. Now, this is a more advanced one, but I'm going to share it to you. And this goes into the considering what we need to do with our cooldowns. And a lot of this will come from experience. I play Venom quite a bit, actually. I've been really enjoying him. And right about, so you can keep track of it. But we see Venom, right? That's great putting it on Jeff. I love that you always have your snowball or your snowflake out. But now we look at Venom. We just saw him use his shields. And we didn't hear his ult, so we know it wasn't that. Now he's jumped in. And this could be because we don't know what Venom does. Venom, right here, has no kill pressure on you whatsoever outside of his ult, which he does not have. He's very low health, and his big burst damage is going to be like 70 damage from this tether, provided he stays in range long enough. He's totally ignoring you. So when we use our snowball here for him, when he had no kill pressure on us, we don't have it for the next thing that comes up. Now, I don't know if you're punished for not having it here. I don't remember, because that's not in my notes. But almost certainly, there will be situations where having that snowball would have made the difference. Now we're going to go talk about some of your positioning. We're going to jump to 1150 here. And this is going to be elaborating on what is good positioning and bad positioning, and that's going to be determinant on the enemy team composition and your team composition. You need to ask yourself, first, what is my job? Second, where do I need to be to do my job? And then third, once you're there, do I need to change my plan? So the first question, what's my job? Well, I'm Luna Snow. I need to heal my team. That's correct, but if we look at our team comp, we only have Emma and Punisher for damage. So Punisher currently is going to be our main damage dealer. Spider-Man is relatively, or should be relatively self-sufficient, right? So we should be able to use our Chip healing from Rocket are just passive healing because he bounces them everywhere. Jeff should be able to get him if needed, and he is plenty fast enough to be responsible and get a health pack. And if he's not, the minor amount of healing your Snowflake would do to him versus the major amount that it would be doing on your Luna when you need to heal her is going to make a large difference. As we're running triple support, this is actually not the worst support lineup ever, but you're the only support out of these three that's going to do a ton of damage, or at least for a support can deal significant, consistent damage. Jeff is a specialty skill set, and unless they have that specialty skill set, they're going to be healing a lot, which is going to be basically like a lot of regen. And in general, Rocket Raccoons don't have much opportunity to do damage, even if they are aware of when they should do it, without putting themselves at more risk. So, as a side note, if you're ever tanking like this Penny or Venom or anything, Rocket Raccoon will absolutely murder you if he gets close to you. He will legitimately ruin your day. His time to kill is probably similar to Punisher's on a tank in close range. It's actually kind of nutty how much damage he can do in the right circumstance. So, we've looked at our team comp. We now know that we have a Spider-Man who is going to do Spider-Man things. He's going to be everywhere. It's good in general to think about keeping your Snowflake on the flankers, but we now have to also look for additional opportunities to deal damage and deal damage to important targets, right? So we see the Moon Knight spam coming in. And this is what happens with players and Squirrel Girls, right? So Squirrel Girls just get to sit up and do whatever they want for free, and nobody challenges them, and eventually they'll get lucky, right? Until you get to slightly higher ranks. So by allowing this Moon Knight to just legitimately farm off your tank, all that you're doing by healing your tank at this point is charging Moon Knight's ultimate. So how do we solve this problem? Well, Moon Knight is doing the majority of his damage to your tank. But what if we shot Moon Knight, okay? That's one person's damage that isn't continually being pumped into the tank because they have to be able to deal with you now, because otherwise you're a damage threat. Luna does a decent amount of damage. She does quite a bit of damage. And by forcing him to either retreat or deal with you, you actually reduce the amount of healing that your tank needs by a significant amount, right? You also have 2 additional healers. They should be able to pick up slack on healing, which means your job, unless you already noticed that Jeff is doing it, but even then you can still assist, is to find valuable targets to deal damage to, not just poke the tank, because your team just lacks the DPS. So when we see here, even on your screen right now, yet again, we are in the middle of a lane. We don't want to be that. There's a perfectly good tree we could use here, or yet again, we can do the majority of our job at the moment from back here. I think this is maybe too conservative, but you are regrouping. So maybe you don't want to stay green, get over here, and maybe if Emma wants to turbo in, you just let her die, you spam group up, you wait in the invulnerable zone, which are inside the green barriers, and then you go out. That's a slightly more nuanced topic, when to just let somebody die, but this would be the prime example of when to just let somebody die. Because what's going to happen, she's going to die. I don't even remember this, but I'm assuming she's going to die. She does not. She should have died. Oh, wait, here it is. There are very few worlds where she doesn't die. This is one of them. Now, let's imagine she had died. Let's imagine she died 4 seconds ago because Bucky actually hit the headshot, or Penny got the net after Diamond Form wore off, or Jeff hit 2 right clicks in a row and did like 150 damage, or whatever it ends up being, right? She's dead. Now she has a respawn timer. Then maybe one of these other people over here gives them the runaround. Okay, they're dead. Okay, then you guys fall back because you're maybe not in kill pressure. Okay, so you fall back. And then Emma respawns. And then the other person respawns. So you've just used a lot of your time. This is a game about time. Every second is actually very important when it comes down to cooldowns and how far you push the cart. How many times has it been just that close and you didn't quite make it over the finish line, well, that's because at some point several seconds were wasted that could have made it a little bit more. It is literally a miracle that she doesn't die there, and I guess it's good use of the cart on her part. Now, you don't need to be healing here. You should maybe think about chonking this, and you are one of the few people that can deal with this right now, or that will, because you're the only person that has an agency over yourself, right? You need to be shooting this guy so that he can't just sit up there for free. Your Moon Knight's not doing it, your Jeff's not doing it, your Rocket certainly isn't doing it, and if he is, it's not very useful. Your Spider-Man is trying to do Spider-Man things, so you need to make up that difference, right? You need to start doing additional damage. We need to look for those opportunities to find damage where we can. This is not great because your tank is not here, so you're not allowed to be in the front. You're especially not allowed to be in front of the car because the point will heal you. You're relatively small profile, so you can hide behind it. But you got domed. I want you to see this from, we'll say maybe Namor, maybe? We'll say Bucky for sure, from Bucky's perspective. You are the freest free ever if this guy had his hook charged up when he walked up to this corner, right? What does he do? Right click. But he didn't even need it because you took too much damage because you didn't respect the fact that there could be a DPS there, right? If you are going to be doing these aggressive plays, you need to be aware of where people are. Now, in general, you're too close to your team playing standard support, but that is also, you know, situationally dependent into a safe spot, which this is, yet again, really exposed, right? If Bucky or Moon Knight started shooting at you, you don't really have anywhere to go. Here, at least, you could kind of block Bucky shots. Even moving over to here closes this angle, and it makes it more difficult for them to shoot at you. But right here is in the middle of where anybody up here can just shoot at you. So that's another example of good positioning, right? As we come out here, this is great. This is what you need to be doing right here. So you're on a slightly off angle that is giving you the opportunity to do some useful damage. And you help pop the penny nest, which is phenomenal. You get some cleave damage here. You get some cleave damage here. And now we're contributing, and they get pushed back. So what I would like to see now is Jeff is already on the cart. We can tell because he's shooting, right? So what I want to see you do is not running in front of the tank, not riding the cart. I want to see you coming over to a place like this, right? Where it's still safe, where you've got this cover, you've got this cover if you need to, right? And just shooting things. Like, you would be able to be shooting this Jeff from here as he's coming around that entire time, right? So if you had rotated here instead, where you have a sight line, since you need to be doing more damage, you can still heal here, right? This guy maybe dies, right? If you'd been over here instead of defaulting to riding on cart with 4 people, right? Maybe this guy dies. You don't have any lines of sight here. This entire structure is built to be annoying to see from this side, but this is the one spot where they let you hold down this choke point. But it's also risky because there's nowhere to really go here if they walk on you. But you're Luna, you are relatively fast. You do have a CC ability. So if you were here right now, you could have dusted this guy. At most, you could have shot him again, and then maybe you shoot Jeff. Maybe you get the freeze off before he goes underwater, and you and Moon Knight blow him up. Or at least you make him less aggressive to get on the cart and stall. And again, I wouldn't even chase him there. He's not doing anything. I would just stand right here. I would just stand right here. We could be shooting Luna. Now she's not looking right. I can still see my entire team from here. I can still heal. But now I'm creating pressure. Maybe I can see that Penny Parker nest from over here, right? I shoot Namor. Now he's throwing spears at me, and every spear that he throws at me that I'm responsible for, that I don't let hit me, or that I manage my health for, is not a spear going into the tank. So now we don't have Bucky and Namor and Penny and Luna. We have Bucky, right? And we can still heal from here. And God forbid anybody else turns and looks at you. Maybe you tag her up. Maybe you take him up. Now you pulled a healer and you pulled a DPS, and they're looking right here. not at their tank. Their tank then doesn't receive healing. Maybe their Luna jumps out in front of your team and gets slammed by Emma, right? Or Emma can take down the Penniness. So this pressure from off angles, especially in triple support, is going to be very important to learn because it's very popular, and it's often a bunch of main supports. So if you are playing a Jeff or a Luna, you really need to be the one stepping up and assisting, dealing damage to anything but the tank to create pressure. Because if you're being shot at as a support, you don't want to be shot at. Your life bar starts getting low. Maybe someone gets you. If you're a DPS and you get shot at, you especially don't want to have your life bar getting low because you can't heal yourself often, whereas supports within reason have at least some ability they can use to heal themselves. So those are some foods for thoughts. I'm going to try to keep this a little shorter than the last ones I've done. But make sure you use your snowflake on targets that are going to take damage. Make sure as often as you can you are doing damage because especially in a triple support comp, but in general, and make it to valuable targets. It's not generally going to be the tank if you have other options, especially if there's supports or high threat DPS. And make sure that wherever you're standing, in general, you have access to cover within just a few footsteps at most, right? There's always going to be something based on how the game is designed that you can duck around, and you never want to be so close that somebody on the enemy team can get an advantage on you and instantly eliminate you. So I hope that that has provided you just a little bit of insight. And thanks, and I hope you found it useful.